Good morning, West Pacific Market Analytics, and it's Glenn here. I thought I'd just give you a quick update as we head into the end of the week. Wanted to kind of give you my thoughts, as I really haven't been clear on that with everyone, and I wanted to make sure that everyone understands where I'm thinking here. This market just keeps grinding sideways at this topping potential pattern, and I want to show you what's going on here. Don't even like to use the word topping, but yes, it's going to be a major blow off, and I think we're already pretty near to it, but things are going to have to happen. So let's just take a look at it. Wanted to give you a fast morning trader update. Again, the disclaimer, these charts and updates are for educational and entertainment purposes only, so please read it. Hope everything's going great with you out there. I've all missed you quite a bit, not doing as much stuff on YouTube, and potentially need to ramp that up more. Would like to do that. You want to get a hold of me again, destinytrading@gmail.com, Discord membership, podcast speaking. If you're interested in having me speak on a podcast, would love to do that. We could talk about any subject. We could model any subject. We could show your audience what they need to see, not what they would need to hear, because it's about seeing and not hearing that's important. So let's get into it here real quick. Let's start off, well, let's just go off some of the models here that I was showing some of the groups so we can look at these. For instance, we can look at NVIDIA right here. So let's just zoom in on this. You just see this huge square here with this topping pattern, right? But you notice how the trend's been rising and then the trend is slowly draining here as the velocity drains. Well, yeah, I mean, we're priced right there, but the trend needs to break more. So if we zoom in on that, you can just see this huge topping pattern going all the way back into June. There was our closure we had in that March-April swoon in the market, and then it popped back up. What's interesting, though, is that if we take the V channel, at this low, we needed to have one more rally back up because you see the V channel was above and we were only just topping way up here. So price is down here. Here's the topping momentum all the way up here. We came into it and now we're putting in this massive head and shoulders top here. You can see we're still holding this 189 price because the channel has remained open. So in other words, this right here, you notice open here, it couldn't break below. Open here, it couldn't break below, and it stayed open here, burst down, but then had to come back up. So you notice that that channel has been open all the way since here. So we're watching for NVIDIA's channel to close, and that will then set up a very big downdraft down back into the channel here. I'm expecting it to get out into this channel here below 115. But that's going to take time. That trend's got to break. You know, it's all about these trends breaking. You can see it here in Tesla too, right? Here was that low we had, but again, notice the topping momentum was still up top here. We notice we topped right out here on the bending over dock. Now, what I'm finding is I've just been rushing time too much. I've been playing a lot with the directional circulation indicator, the V channel, because it really is a timing mechanism for the market, and I've just been rushing it that until the directional circulation even tops out, you can't even think about a high being in. So in other words, here was a high, but you notice the momentum was still building because the directional circulation and the overall V channel is a measure of the velocity's momentum. As you can see out of that rally, we then had to pop back up into the channel, and you notice now how we're topping out here again above the V channel, and this is going to get ready to break down. That only puts us down here to the gate, which is around 288, but if that gate opens up, I mean, Tesla could really sell off steeply. We could see a drop in Tesla right down to about 120, 130 ahead into 2026. Everybody says that's not possible, but it is in the model. We had this black line hit here. You notice this? This is in a key model that I was showing members. Not going to talk about too much what we're looking at here, but you notice we came up and we never hit the black line here once we came down. We should be pricing in this channel, right? But you notice pricing in the channel, breaking down, coming up, pricing in the channel. But typically once we break below the black line, the rule is we need to go up and do a back test of it, and then we're going to come back down. So we finally got a black line hit on something that is really key. And here, if we look at that particular red indicator, that is this red indicator right here that is just done the black line hit. Now, this is important because you notice how we're going to see this, how out of this low here, this 4100 low, how we've seen the data just go sideways here with the trend. You notice that? Here's our topping momentum, but look how long this whole complex pattern is taken. So we're measuring this red, but this red's very important because you can see how it moves to the market. It sells off, the market sells off. It sells off, the market sells off. It sells off, the market sells off. But it had to come up here. So here it is topping up in here, but then it broke out outside of the channel. Now, why did it do that? Well, it can do breakouts based upon other technicals in the market. And we can have kind of a blow-off kind of move, and I'll show you that just in a moment. But that red now needs to price back down here at some point in the V channel, and it will. But notice we've just had that sideways kind of trend, and now it's starting to break down. And again, that indicator finally did this black line hit here on the model. So that's suggesting we're getting really, really close on something here. And here we can see this idea in a different model, but notice again how the trends just stayed strong up here. This is incredible because notice this breakout on this particular indicator to late 2023, all of 24, all of 25, a 2-year breakout here above the V channel. And notice how it's never been this high before. So this was the highest this red indicator ever was, going all the way past back the 2009 period in the market, and now we've got another record high. Now a record high is somewhere to be careful because you notice when this topped out, we got our sell-off here back in April of 25. Here's this minor sell-off here, and here's the bigger sell-off in 2022. You notice all of these sell-offs, 2020 here. So this being the highest that it's ever been, and now a way, way above the V channel, we're getting really, really close on something happening soon. And again, if we look at this idea of measuring time, right, with the V channel, again, this model here, we're actually looking at the Hindenburg omen here. People have talked about that. This is my way of looking at it with our momentum. And you notice the Hindenburg indicator topped out all the way back here in 2019. But we can see that as it topped out, the channel was continuing to break. Thus, we were pricing correctly here. We had the indicator breaking down. And you notice right now we've got this minor pop out again here in the channel. So this is all going to break down. It's all, every model I look at shows this topping idea. And we even look at the Dow, right? We can see that, you know, here's the Dow. Take a look at this, right? You see this, the Dow, it still hadn't topped out here. Here we were back in 2025, and you notice the velocity channel or the directional circulation was still rising. And now it's finally topping out here sometime in about April, May. Now that doesn't mean that we have to continue sideways as it tops out here, because we already should be pricing right back here into the channel. So I'm expecting this soon to start to come down and potentially then work down depending on how this indicator here goes. You notice we're priced perfectly here. You notice we are priced too far below here, priced correctly, and then overshot. But we got over that overshot could simply be because we hadn't topped out. So I'm expecting this now to work its way lower, not expecting it to get too aggressive. We'll have to see. It can come down, and then I'm expecting some sort of rally back up. That's my plan here, 2026 sell-off, and then a rally back up. So, you know, there's things that have to happen. You can see here close up of the Dow. There's a different closer model here. We've actually got topping time here on this particular model. You notice we still didn't have topping time back here in April, and now we've got the or the momentum on this model, which is a different indicator. I think we're looking at the daily here. But you notice the trend, it's taking a long time to break. Look, October, November, December, January. And so we're starting to see now the velocity come out and the trend starting to break. But we need to see these trends break before we can see it get too aggressive. You can see this here, right? Pricing nicely in the V channel, but V channel had not topped here back in April 25. We've now got it topped out here, and you notice this breakout, right? So we're going to have, and you notice how now the whole V channel is working down into 2027. So we're going to need to see this, you know, look at, we're all the way up the top here. And you notice when this indicator is rising, the market is rising. When this indicator is dropping and dropping, we're going down. So we need to see this indicator roll over and now drop down in the channel. So we see these breakouts all over the place. Look at this here. This is a bigger picture of what I just showed you. And you notice this indicator was coming down. Notice how it read. And once price hit the indicator, it just came down here in 1999 to 2003. And here's the corrective move in 2007. You see it coming down. But the whole thing came outside of the V channel. So notice it, this red indicator had to price here. it had to price here. So it all came back up, price in the V channel, now it's broken out. And notice now we had a rising velocity channel, and now we've got a falling velocity channel. So this is almost done up top, and now this is going to have to all start to work itself down. And it could get aggressive at some point, because this is already pricing us back here. You see this indicator price pretty close to the market. You know, this is already pricing us back down to those 2022 lows just to enter the channel. So I'm expecting something pretty big to come, and soon. And you can see this, you know, you can see this parabolic blow off here. This is not going to end pretty. Look at this parabolic blow off, right? And notice we've only just got topping time right here. So we started to have that corrective move down last year, and then we've had one more pop up while topping time is ongoing. And you notice here when we had a corrective move, look at it moving down here and moving down here, we had our sell-off. So the V channel is now below, so this has got to drop at some point. And it is in a parabolic type of move. And we see these parabolic moves all over the place. Same indicator. Notice it coming down, notice it coming down, and look at that parabolic blow off. But we've got to see change. You see what I mean here? So in other words, here we're going November, December, January. Look, the trend is breaking down, but it's not really breaking that aggressive yet, right? We really need to see this trend roll over for the market to do any kind of bigger corrective move. The velocity is draining, and that's pulling down on price, and that's pulling down on the trend indicator. But we're going to have to see these trend indicators. You can see it here again. Look at topping out, but we're going to need to see that trend break. So on a lot of things, we're simply watching for this trend to break. I could get into more. Look at here. You notice now for 1, 2, 3, 4, we're almost getting into a fifth month here, a price just hanging above that signal. Look at that. So we topped out back here, way back here. And now we are finally topping out. Now this is starting to roll over. So you can see it's just a grindy kind of going nowhere situation here, right? We're just going nowhere. And the V channel is below. It all needs to break down. So it's just taking time. Here's the S&P, right? So you notice here the trend just breaking sideways here. It's starting to roll over. And look at price just hovering. So we can see this whole period of, like we saw back here in this model right here. You notice how these 5 monthly candles here, right, corresponds to that S&P model. Excuse me, let me go back right here. This S&P model of just this long, grindy, sideways motion ongoing right now, okay? So you can see the velocity's coming out, but we need to see the trend break, right? So we're watching this S&P model. Once the trend and the velocity rolls over, it will follow price down. But we need to see change, right? Semiconductors, we like to short them, but notice the trend is still rising here. It's not ready. So we're not going to do that until we see it all roll over. And we're going to be doing that on a lot. NVIDIA, same thing. We're not going short NVIDIA yet. NVIDIA is the red line. S&P is the market here. You can see it's just kind of just hanging up there with NVIDIA. And again, we're watching NVIDIA. Velocity is continuing to drain out, but the trend is just holding strong. And so that should also be an indicator when this market is finally ready to break. Now, let me finish off with this global model. You notice, same idea here. It's just grinding sideways. This is the S&P in red, and this is the globe. And they two are tracking each other perfectly. And you can see that same idea close up in the globe. You can see how the trend is just spinning around up top here, right? So until we start to see all this break over, we're not going to short this market. Now, if we look at Bitcoin and Ether, you can see what I mean. You notice here, here's Bitcoin, right? Back in August, September, and you notice the velocity starting to drain, but with velocity and trend broke together, and then you notice it popped out and it all collapsed again. That's Bitcoin, right? So you see how it did it in Bitcoin? We need to see that same setup. Here's Ether. You notice trend and velocity breaking and Ether breaking. Until the trend and the velocity can find a way to start to turn up, you're not going to call a low yet in the complex of crypto, but you can kind of see that general idea of what I'm talking about. So I'm going to be back at you. I'll let you know once I see these trends really starting to roll over. I feel we're very, very close right now because I see some indicators going off that say we are in a window of a week or two here to where it's going to start to finally roll away. Like I said, it's not higher. You want to be just getting ready. You've had 4 months now of the market just going nowhere. and I'll keep you updated on it. Thanks for tuning in. Have yourself a great day. Glenn out.